John here, I just got to know him on Friday, and wow, what a gift he is to this ministry, and his attention and his love and everything really shows. Well, I'm Alden Studebaker, and I'd like to thank all of you, the board, the search team, everyone, for inviting me here today and to be a candidate for this open position in your church. My wife, Donna, could not be here today, unfortunately. She had to work and take care of our 3-year-old orange tabby cat named Buster. He has high needs, mainly sitting on laps, but Anyway, it is a joy to be here today and to speak to you as a prospective candidate or as a candidate for the job of minister. Years ago, I was attending college at Western Michigan University. That's where I got my degree. Home of the Broncos. They were in the Cotton Bowl last year. Pretty good, very good. And I became very active with the Unity Church there, and during my time there, the church made a move from one location, which was a reorganized Church of Latter-day Saints building, to a Christian Science building. If you've ever been in a Christian Science church before, there are often statements that are up on the wall at the front of the sanctuary. And one of those statements is this: I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. What a powerful statement. It's a statement that we as Unity people, when we saw this moving in there, we thought, hey, that's what our message is about as well. And Christian Science and Unity are kind of cousin churches. And so we left it in there. This beautiful building we moved into, it was this very New England style white church with a big white steeple on it. And the church met there for many, many years after. And so we left this statement up there because the they in that statement is really who? It's you, isn't it? It's me. It's all of us. And we understand in Unity that Jesus was an inclusive teacher. He wasn't just speaking to a few people when he was sharing his message. He wasn't speaking to just the privileged people who are going to have this abundant life. He was talking about everybody, everyone, all of us. He made that abundantly clear. There were no restrictions on the abundant life. There were no prerequisites, no pedigree you had to have to live the life more abundant. There was no problem. But I think it's important when we look at this statement to look at the whole quote, because this is actually half the quote. If you look at the entire quote of John 10:10, it reads in this way: the thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. What are the thieves in your life that might be destroying your experience of the abundant life? There are quite a few if we start thinking about it. What gets in the way of our experience of abundance and prosperity? One of the top things that comes to my mind is the thief called unworthiness. Unworthiness. I don't maybe deserve the abundant life. Maybe you went to a church that taught that. That taught that you weren't a child of God, that you were a spiritual being. Maybe you were taught something else about yourself that would get in the way of this abundant life. Maybe you were taught, dare I say this in a Unity church, that you were a miserable what? Yeah. To our kind of thinking, that's just nuts, isn't it? Kind of crazy thinking. To think that we are a miserable worm of the dust. And the abundant life, well, forget about it. You're just trying to stay afloat spiritually. A life more abundant, maybe that's not for us. And so many people going through life thinking they deserve only just a little bit of good. And by doing so, they cut off from themselves the life more abundant that Jesus spoke of. And then there's unworthiness's cousin, self-denial. Self-denial. And self-denial that kind of puts off the natural flow of abundance in our lives. And we do so sometimes out of a worn-out, usually religious idea that it is poor or it is virtuous to be poor and without a lot of abundance. You're holier the less abundance you have. And in some cases, folks take a vow of poverty. The crumbs of life are good enough. Good enough for you. And all you ever have is what is barely sufficient to get you through life. And so we run into that thief of our abundance. And then there's another one. And that's called scarcity thinking. Scarcity thinking. That there's just what out there? There's just a limited amount of good. Just a little bit out there. So whatever you can get of it, you better grab it, and you better do what? You better hold on to it. And this leads to something that maybe some of us have to deal with. It's a certain affliction. It's called hoarding. They're television shows all about helping people getting over hoarding. They're very interesting to watch. To see the stuff that people have been squirreling away for years. And how these experts come in and try to help them understand, you're just buried in your stuff. There's clutter all over the place. And that impedes the flow of abundance. You think, well, you have a lot of stuff, you must be abundant. No, you have an abundance of junk. Sometimes an abundance of garbage. An abundance of newspapers going back to 1946. And this is especially true of children of the Depression. Anyone here raised in the Depression? Or you know somebody that was? Yeah. I do. My parents. And over the years, I've had to deal with their affliction of scarcity, of hoarding. In 1996, I flew out. I'm from the Cincinnati area, and I was a minister of Garden Park Unity Church for 10 years there. And I took time out in the summer to go out and help them move from California back to the Midwest. So I flew out there to help, organize things, get things on the moving van that my father was going to drive. And I ran into their hoarding. I spent an entire day doing nothing but breaking down cardboard boxes and throwing them in a dumpster out by the street. A whole day. And at the end of the day, I went in there and sat them down. I said, look, the next time you buy something, a toaster, a television, anything, promise me, after 30 days, you'll throw the box away. I thought I was talking to a brick wall. What do you mean? Throw away the boxes. And later on, when my mother passed away, my father and I dealt with the aftermath of her passing. And we spent a good day doing nothing but cleaning out the 2 refrigerators where my mother had stored away food. Most of it not suitable for human consumption. And an entire pantry back in the garage with all of this food. Some of it usable. I took that home. The rest, well, you know where it went. And then my dad spent some time going through the house, just looking here and looking there, trying to clean up things from her life. And he began to find money. And when you look under a couch seat, sometimes you'll find like a bunch of quarters and dimes. And I do that all the time. I'm always losing change in my car or, in the seat where I sit at home. But my father went around and started finding money in the house. And not just a few dollars, not just $100. He found enough money so that he didn't have to go to an ATM for a year. He found $4,000 that my mother had squirreled away. For what reason? I don't know. And then my father passed away about 3 years ago, and I was the executor of his estate. He was born in 1927. Military veteran. We all honor all veterans, by the way, this weekend, don't we? And so I began the process of going through, mostly with my wife. My sisters lived a little further away, so they weren't quite as active in this process, of going through 2 outbuildings and the house he lived in. Yeah. And I began to notice that my father was the supreme hoarder of all time. I would find plastic buckets. You know, the plastic buckets, this ice cream comes in, all over the place. And when I found one with a whole bunch of junk spark plugs in it, I looked at him and I said, why? What were you going to do with these? Make a sculpture out of them, or, dust them off a little bit. Oh, those are good. We'll put them back in the engine. When I found his 1976 MasterCard, the kind that would have your photo on the back, I go, oh, yeah, you were saving this to go on a trip somewhere, weren't you? And not only did I have to deal with my father's belongings, and before that, my mother's, when my parents would help with a deceased relative's estate, my maternal grandparents, my older sister, and my little brother, they didn't just get rid of things, pass it along, send it, give it to a good cause, have a garage sale or any of that. They kept it all. Yeah. The furniture, all the furniture. It got to the point when I would pull in with my van and my trailer to the Michigan City, Indiana Goodwill store. They'd go, there he is again. And they took almost everything. And the dresser. It was okay. I guess you could use it. And they looked at that and said, we aren't taking that. We're not taking that. So I took it back to the storage building. This building was bought with my uncle so that he and my father could work on their old Studebaker cars. My dad had a truck. My uncle had a car. Well, one that ran anyway. He had 6 others that were in his backyard going back to the earth from which they came. He once told me, he said, you can have any of those cars you want. I said, no, that's okay. That's okay. I don't need a project. And so we spent time having garage sale after garage sale. It was right on US 12, which is a pretty busy road. So I put signs out there. People come in. They say, how much for that? I said, how much do you want to give? When we got done, they hauled away 3 20-yard dumpsters of stuff that was so bad we couldn't sell it, we couldn't give it away. This kind of scarcity thinking inhibits the flow of abundant life in our lives. It weighs us down. And when I think of the idea of moving, I've been where I am 21 years. Maybe it's time for maybe a 10-yard dumpster. A few runs to Goodwill. Lighten the load a little. And then there's scarcity's cousin, because, behind scarcity there is a seed thought, and that seed thought is fear. Fear you're not going to have enough. There's a sense of panic. What are we going to do if I don't hold on to that little piece of string that I've been holding on to for 30 years? Might have to use it somewhere. It's fear that holds us back. It's anxiety over what the future will be, dread of the future, that often gets in the way of our abundance. So what's the antidote? How can we send the thieves of our abundant life packing? The key to that is our fully embracing the idea behind the holiday that's coming up toward the end of this month. What is that? That's right, it's Thanksgiving. It is the power of thanksgiving and of gratitude that lifts us out of these scarcity ideas and gets us open to the good. We read in the book of Matthew, now Jesus called his disciples to himself and said, I have compassion on the multitude, because they have now continued with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I do not want to send them away hungry, lest they faint on the way. Then his disciples said to him, well, where would we get enough bread in the wilderness to fill such a great multitude? Well, so Jesus said to them, well, how many loaves do you have? And they said, 7, and a few little fish. So he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves and the fish and gave thanks and broke them and gave them to his disciples, and the disciples gave them to the multitude. And so they all ate and were filled, and they took up 7 large baskets full of fragments that were left. We've all heard that story before, perhaps many times. What was the miracle of that story, do you think? Was it that Jesus somehow manifested all of this bread and all of this fish out of infinite substance? I mean, that's usually how it's told or how it's explained. Or was it the act of thanksgiving, of gratitude, of being willing to give that the multitude saw Jesus doing that caused them to be inspired to give themselves of what they had brought with them along the way? And all of a sudden, all this bread and all these fish were passed out from one person to the other. And everybody ate. And there were leftovers, too. Gratitude is the spiritual power that attracts our highest good to us. Gratitude is a magnet for good. It activates the principle of mind action in a positive way. And I think many of us are familiar with the principle of mind action, that the thoughts that I think about most of the time, that I give the most power and energy to, begin to show up in my life. And therein lies our ability to control, to a certain degree, what our experiences are. It is this principle, this law. And this same principle works with scarcity. We think in that way, or we feel that we're unworthy of our good. That principle works for us then too, and brings to us the stuff in our lives that we're just not so crazy about. The antidote to these thieves of our abundance is thanksgiving, is gratitude. And it needs to be a part of our natural thinking. To give thanks for ourselves to start with. Just give thanks to your body. Think of your body right now. Just give it a little pat. Thank you. Thank you. No matter what's going on, some health challenge, say thank you for letting me live in this vehicle of expression. And to our minds, and often when we think of our minds, we think of our brain. Well, think of your brain right now and say thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for guiding me along the way, helping me out. And then look around you and start giving thanks for the people that you're sitting around. Just gotta look around and go, thank you. Thank you. It's a challenging practice saying thank you to our lives, of saying thank you for all of our good. Someone pays you a compliment, what do you usually say? Do you say thank you? Or do you say, it was nothing, it was nothing? What happens when we kind of dismiss a compliment? Aren't we somewhat disrespecting the giver of that compliment? We're not honoring what they're saying. when what we can say is just simply, thank you. I know I've done it many a time. I try to catch myself. Wait a minute. Hold on. Just say thank you. Thank you. So we have this power of thanksgiving to help us dismiss these thieves of our abundance. There's also a practice we can enter into that can help us as well. And it's based on the principle of giving and receiving. Jesus spoke of this. He said, give and it shall be given unto you, shaken together, pressed together, running over. And one of the ways we can practice this principle is through tithing. There, I said it, the T word. Sometimes it's hard for ministers to talk about tithing. And they feel that maybe they got a vested interest in it. You know, if people tithe to the church prospers. That's terrible, isn't it? And no doubt a church is blessed by people who give in such an abundant way. But when we see that tithing is an important spiritual principle, it's something that needs to be shared of what it can do for your life, then we need to begin to consider sharing that in a ministry. Because it's key to helping us live a life more abundant. Because our abundance is enhanced by this principle of consistent giving to life. Now, if you're already a tither, you got a couple minutes, to check your Facebook. This is my smartphone. Oh, that's going on. Or look out the windows, look at the beautiful stained glass windows around, look at the people around you. Think about, well, the Bucks going to win today or not. Let's see. Probably not. We, back in Cincinnati, we have the Bengals. They keep us guessing too. Yeah. But if you're not a tither, you may be wondering, how on earth can you live more abundantly on 90% of your income instead of 100%? It doesn't make any sense, and it really doesn't in a logical way, does it? I don't know how tithing works, but I know it does. So I've done it most of my adult life. When we tithe to the source of our spiritual nourishment, this does something to our experience of abundance. It doesn't establish the flow of abundance, but it enhances it. We affirm the flow of abundance when we don't pay our tithes, but we share from our heart of our tithes to the source of our spiritual good. It is an affirmation of God is my source, not anything out there. Not my job, not the government, not my rich uncle, or whatever you got that you might think is the source of your good. Those are channels of good, but there's one source. One source. And tithing is a way of showing our gratitude to the source of our abundance. We read in 2 Corinthians 9:8. And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that you, always having all sufficiency in all things, may have an abundance for every good work. All sufficiency in all things. If you've been in Unity a while, you've probably heard that before. But why don't we for a moment just affirm, I have all sufficiency in all things together. I have all sufficiency in all things. Now, how does it make you feel? Like, wow, things are going to work out. Yeah, I'm dealing with this issue, but it's going to work out because I have all sufficiency in all things. Abundance really is having what you need when you most need it. When you most need it. Maybe you don't have that abundance yet, but when you need it, it's going to show up somehow. When have you really not had what you need? Probably most of the time you do get what you need. It's hard to think of a time. Now, maybe there was a time in your life when you were substance challenged. Okay? Substance challenged. It's a euphemism for not having too much in your checking account. And things were tight. I remember Christmas 1976, my father's business had gone in the tubes. We left our home in Honolulu and moved to the San Francisco Bay Area. And he was so down on his luck, he felt he couldn't do much, so I went to work. And it's a good thing I worked at a restaurant because they throw out a lot of food at the end of the day. We ate a lot of food from the Boar's Head restaurant right there on 101 and 92, if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area. I know there's two Bay Areas. There's that one and there's this one. And I remember when we went to Christmas dinner at a coffee shop, I had about $10, $12 in my pocket. And all five of us, my sisters, me, and my parents, had dinner. That's called substance challenge. But we had what we most need when we needed it because everybody got something to eat. Basically, everybody ordered off the menu except my father. He was in a stage of self-denial, like this. But we all made contributions to him. They brought a plate, and we all gave him some stuff, and we had Christmas that year. Having all sufficiency in all things is not just about the bare necessities of life. For some people, it might be if you live in a third world country. All you have to do is just look south of here to Haiti. Okay, having all sufficiency in all things there may be just getting enough to eat for the day. We can look in the United States. Look at Puerto Rico and the hurricane that went over there. Most of those people don't have electricity. And it's challenging to get what they most need. My church in Cincinnati had a number of outreach projects, and one of them was giving to a mission down in the hills and hollers of Kentucky. And there are people in our country, in Appalachia, who are substance challenged. Seriously. And so we would collect things every year and send a shipment. We would take a shipment down. It's quite a drive getting back into where this was. It was about as far east into Kentucky and still being in Kentucky, because Virginia was like about 5 miles down the road. And we could only bring items to them that were non-electric, because they don't have electricity. So no toasters, no mixers, okay? No electric fry pans. Simply things that could be used without electricity. All sufficiency in all things, for us, quite often, is finding what we need and it's on sale. That happen? You go out, go to the store, hadn't looked at the ad, and there's what you want. It's on sale. I just bought this shirt recently, on sale at Macy's. I spent half an hour looking at shirts till I said, no, I got to find the right shirt. Last night I was needing to get some dinner. I was watching TV. I know I should have been working on this talk, but I decided to watch some TV. And the Comedy Channel had on, Meet the Parents, Robert De Niro and Ben Stiller. Funny movies, both of them. But there was an ad that flipped on the TV screen, and it said, online today, 50% off Pizza Hut pizzas. I thought, wow, there we go. I could use some pizza right now. But you had to do it online, so I got off the phone and ordered online, walked over to Pizza Hut, because it's only 2 blocks from my hotel, and got that 50% off pizza. But I'll tell you, on the way, I ran into somebody who we might consider substance challenged. He looked to be a homeless person, and I'm sure there are many here in the city. I could tell he was homeless because it was dark outside, and he wasn't home. He had a bottle next to him and a pack of cigarettes here, and he was looking like this, and I just thought, what do you do? I did what I could. I just blessed him when I walked by him, blessed him when I walked by him to go back to the hotel. There are people out there who need to hear this message, that all sufficiency in all things is their birthright, that the life more abundant is not just for other people, it's for them too. How can we get this message out to everyone? So let's recap this life more abundant. First of all, let's understand it is a birthright. Jesus was not just speaking to his close disciples, he was speaking to everyone in the world. The antidote to abundance-stealing thoughts is gratitude, thanksgiving, saying thank you to what's going on in our lives. Gratitude is the spiritual power that attracts our highest good to us. Abundant living is enhanced by tithing. And abundant living is having what we most need, or what we most need when we most need it. Getting what we need for the fulfillment of our lives. And so along this theme of prosperity, I'd like to finish using that guitar. Oh, don't clap yet. No, I'll, let me change that. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see if I can get this back on. This is a song called Prosperity. You've heard one already this morning. This is another one that was written by my dear friend and New Thought musician, Carl Anthony. How you know him? Okay. With all sincerity, I want prosperity. I absolutely so tired of poverty. The greatest mystery is how I've paid my utility bills. I positively deserve prosperity. I wanted more than I wanted anything before. Oh Lord, well then after I can think of all the ways I could ask you for more. Lord, give me clarity. I guarantee that it's you and me. By giving me the ability to change my old reality. I wanted more than I wanted anything before. Oh Lord, then after I can think of all the ways I could ask you for more. I can see it oh so clear. Being wealthy will be my career. I'll be in every magazine in my purple limousine. A house above the LA smog and a diamond collar for my dog. I wanted more than I wanted anything before. Oh Lord, and after I could think of all the ways I could ask you for more. I want it, and you want it too. Well, I know you will have it, so don't feel blue. With all sincerity, I really want prosperity.